Now we're going to review how to dimension a hole. When we dimension a hole, there's three things that we're going to start off with. The location dimension of the hole in the both X and Y axis, and then the size of the hole. So using your dimension, in your dimension layer, we're going to start off by locating the hole. Still setting that 3/8 of an inch. That time, when I typed it, it didn't work, so I'm just going to use the offset command just to make sure it goes over there. Sometimes that happens. If the dimension doesn't move over when you type it in, or you don't click on the endpoint. The last endpoint is where it measures, so you have to make sure that you pick that, and then you see the green extension line. So sometimes I get a little too fast and it doesn't click. So there we've located, both in the X and the Y direction, the location for that hole. Now, because, or if you have an instance where the dimensions are the same on the other holes, we can add the word TYP, or typical, to our dimension, and that will prevent us from having to go and dimension the other hole. So by double clicking on the text, hitting the end button to go to the end of the text, we can type in with capital letters TYP, and that dimension now covers the other hole that's located on this drawing. So once again, hit the end button, TYP, and that dimension is located for both of those. If you do get to the point where your dimension is running a little too close to your part, you can pick on your dimension and move it over in the increments of 1/4 of an inch, and that will space that out a little bit further. When that happens, you have to be paying close attention to your right side view. You can move that over as well. So I'm just going to move that over 1/2 of an inch, and to allow enough room, because clarity is most important when you're dimensioning, and you don't want to have everything kind of crumbled, mixed up and tight in there, and you're not able to see your dimensions. So this is the two pieces of information, the X and Y dimension. The third thing is going to be the size of the hole. So using the diameter dimension, pick on the hole, drag it over to the side, trying to keep that in between 30 and 60 degrees. I like the good old 45. Put that in there, and now we're going to do the same. Because we have two holes, we can use the word typical at the end of this. If we had other holes that were located on here, say if we had a smaller hole over here and it was clearly the different size, we could use the word, we could put 2 places. So the 0.25 diameter hole is located 2 places over here, where we may have another dimension where we have to locate this one over to the side. So for here, we would not, in this instance, we would not want to use the word typical, because they would assume that that hole is also the same. So you just use the counting of the holes when you have multiple sizes of holes on the part. If you have just one size hole, then you can use the word typical. So I'm going to double click on that text. Once again, hit the end button, space TYP, and we put that typical note on there, and that covers that. So those are the 3 pieces of information that you need when you are dimensioning a hole. Another thing, we've got another thing I want to show you. So if I had, I'm going to move this hole over to the side so you can see what's going on. Some of you probably already noticed when you do your dimensions. We have these 2 lines pop up. Those are called center marks. The center marks pop up, and it's a variable in our dimension style manager that makes that center mark show. So there's 2 things that you can do when you're dimensioning. You can change the dimension style manager. This is under the symbols and arrows. Right now it's set a mark, and it has the dimension for that mark. If we switch it to none, the center mark goes away. If we switch it to line, we have center lines. So this is one way. Oops, what happened? Let's go back. That line's not right. that should have been a long center line. Maybe let's change. Oh, the center mark is too small, so that's what. So let me change my center mark dimension. Maybe make that 0.02. There we go. So I changed the size of the center mark to make that small. It was 0.09, and that was a little too large for that. So that is another way of putting the center lines on your holes all in one step with the dimension. For right now, I'm going to prefer that you draw your center lines as we've been doing in class, but I wanted you to turn off your center mark. So I'm going to switch this back to none. That way you do not have a center mark sitting on top of your center lines. Another thing that I wanted to go over is the right side view. When you dimension, and you dimension the hole, if you dimension the hole on the right side view and you pick the center line like that, that is still considered dimensioning to a feature that's in its hidden state. So even though you're not specifically touching the hidden line, you are dimensioning to a center line, you're still dimensioning to a feature that's in the hidden state. So we're not going to dimension like this. We always dimension in the view where the hole appears as a circle. So that's not acceptable. So those are the three things that you would use in dimensioning a hole. Hopefully that will help you out on some of your drawings this week.